Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel condemns a spate of terror in Turkey and Egypt. Hamas offers missiles to any country that wants to attack the Jewish state, and an incredible archaeological discovery is unveiled in Jerusalem. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with the latest news in Israel. It was a bloody weekend in Turkey and Egypt, two of Israel's regional allies, and now the Israeli Prime Minister is not only condemning the attacks, but also asking for corresponding consideration. Istanbul was rocked on Saturday when a car bomb exploded outside a stadium following a football match, and a suicide attacker blew himself up nearby less than a minute after.
Oradan geçmekte olan seyir halindeki bir araç patlatıldı ve 45 saniye sonra da Maçka Parkı'nda yine polislerin bulunduğu bölgede bir kişi durduruldu ve o kişinin de kendini patlatması sonucu iki bombalı saldırıyla çok hain, çok alçak bir terör saldırısıyla Türkiye olarak karşı karşıya kalmış olduk.
14'ü yoğun bakımda, 5'i ameliyatta ve 155 toplam hastanelerde şu anda tedavi gören, bu olayla karşı karşıya kalmış, sağlıkları için dua ettiğimiz vatandaşlarımız var. Yine bu olayda hemen akabinde 10 kişi, daha sonra da yapılan operasyonlar neticesinde 3 kişi daha, toplam 13 kişi gözaltına alındı.
38 people were killed in the attacks, which are being blamed on Kurdish militants. The Israeli leader is denouncing the violence and insisting the fight against terrorism must be mutual. He says Jerusalem expects a reciprocal condemnation of any terrorist attacks inflicted on the state of Israel from all the countries it's in contact with, including Ankara, in light of their recent diplomatic reconciliation. The Israeli Prime Minister is also speaking out strongly against the detonation of a 12-kilo bomb at a Cairo church during Sunday services. The attack claimed the lives of 25 people and wounded at least 31 other worshippers.
من النوم على الخبر لما الهزه حصلت، صحيت من النوم قلت لها تجري، اتصلت بواحد صاحبي قال لي الدنيا خراب جوه، حاجه فظيعه بس وان شاء الله باذن الله تعدي على خير، واحنا كلنا مصريين وباذن الله احنا بنناشد المصريين مش هنسكت على الحوار ده. لازم.
Egypt's Coptic Christian minority has frequently been targeted by Islamist Muslim extremists in the past. Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel shares in the grief of the families of the victims and of the Egyptian people, and is calling for the uniting of forces to fight the reprehensible terrorism together. A Hamas official has just made the shocking public announcement on the terrorist group's TV network that the Gaza rulers will share their vast arsenal of rockets with any Arab army willing to fire them at the Jewish state. Fatih Hamad stated the Hamas intention to open a multi-front threat against Israel with the help of its Arab brothers on the Al-Aqsa television channel he directs. Hamad is also a member of the official PLC parliament, which is under the leadership of Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Defense experts say Hamas has been producing missiles at an industrial scale pace since it seized control of the Strip in 2007. Since that time, it sparked 3 major conflicts by firing literally tens of thousands of rockets at population centers in the Jewish state, killing dozens of Israelis. Even though the Israeli army demolished about 80% of the stockpile during the 2014 war, Hamas has feverishly been working to replenish its supply, with even longer-range rockets. The Islamist regime has also been caught digging new terror tunnels under the Israeli border. Given Israel's uncontested military superiority in the region, it remains to be seen whether or not any Arab armies will take up the offer to become brothers in arms with Hamas. We've been seeing an increase of hate crimes and incitement targeting Jews this past year, and in response, Britain's about to become one of the first countries in the world to adopt an international definition of anti-Semitism. British Prime Minister Theresa May says it's unacceptable there's anti-Jewish activity in her nation, and that adherence to a specific definition will make it harder for offenders to escape prosecution. She's calling the initiative a groundbreaking step and is set to give an address dedicated to the matter at a later date. The definition itself was drawn up by the 31-member state International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance earlier this year. Here's a portion of what it says. Antisemitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed in verbal or physical manifestations directed at Jewish or non-Jewish individuals, properties, community institutions, or religious facilities. It also includes acts that target the State of Israel as a Jewish collective, although general criticism of the country, similar to that faced by other nations, is still permitted, of course. During the first 6 months of 2016, Britain witnessed an 11% increase in anti-Semitic incidents, which is the second highest number ever recorded for that time period. Combating the issue is taking on urgency in the country, which is home to the 5th largest Jewish population in the world. A comprehensive British parliamentary inquiry into anti-Semitism is set to be released tomorrow. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is floundering and his days in office are numbered. That's at least a view of Lenny Ben David from the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs, who told ILTV's Steve Leibowitz that no successor to Abbas has yet to emerge.
Any surprises from the message from Abbas in his acceptance speech?
No surprises. It was a typical hardline comment on Israel, on the peace process. The man is floundering. And so when he is floundering, he's going for anything that he thinks is a life preserver. And in order to prevent further disintegration within the Palestinian Authority and within the Palestinian world, he has to take a hardline position. And it is disintegrating. The cities in the West Bank are going off on their own way. Hebron with the commercial class. There's fighting, there's gunfire in Nablus, and he must maintain some type of semblance. Within his own party, he has a tremendous division between those who want him to stay, even though he's 81 years old, and those who want other younger contenders. Even the Arab world is weighing in, for instance, on one of those contenders.
Dahlan.
On Dahlan.
They seem to think that he could be a man that could lead the Palestinians.
It's potential. And then he's, of course, got another potential, and he's sitting in a jail, Barghouti, for 5 murders, and will probably never see the time of day. So for 81-year-old Abbas, trying to protect his legacy and protect the fortunes of his millionaire, perhaps billionaire sons, nothing was surprising.
So we did not see the naming of an obvious successor, which some anticipated this Congress.
No successor is on the horizon. We still have a problem of Fatah versus Hamas, and I don't see a change. If there was a chance of any type of Palestinian entity emerging, right now it's the only Palestinian entity that there is disintegrating.
Of course, in his message, Abbas spoke about how at the next Congress it would be held in Jerusalem, in an independent Palestinian state. I mean, he kept a very optimistic front about it. And he also expressed kind of a wish or a hope that the new U.S. administration of Donald Trump will kind of impose a Palestinian state on Israel. Is that just dreaming, wishful thinking?
I think it's illusion. I think it's wishful thinking. It's not going to happen. He doesn't have a national entity behind him. He doesn't have the consensus of the Palestinian people behind him. And where's he going to go with that? Is he going to hope that the United Nations will impose something? Well, in another few weeks, in 50 days, the president will veto any such resolution. So there's not much chance of this.
Do you expect that the United States will, in these last days of its administration, will continue vetoing anti-Israel resolutions that come up in the Security Council?
I do expect the U.S. administration, the Obama administration, will maintain its policy and will not take any swipes at Israel out of some type of feeling of revenge. I don't think they're going to pay any attention to a 92-year-old Jimmy Carter who came out calling for some type of recognition of a Palestinian state. You're not going to rock the boat too much because the boat is will be going in a different direction.
Lenny Ben-David, thanks so much for being with us at ILTV.
Over 80% of Earth's ecological processes have already been affected by climate change, and sadly, Israel hasn't been immune from the issue. Aaron, how has Israel been affected?
Basically, our marine ecosystem is very stressed, and there are mass extinctions that are going on, and it's threatening the biodiversity that's in the marine life. It's threatening the food chain itself, and it's a really big problem.
Let's check out the report that you did on this issue.
The most recent data compiled about marine life in the reefs off of the Jewish state's shores reveals that some species that were once bountiful are today non-existent. Others are believed to be in imminent peril. Oceanographers are blaming rising temperatures in the Mediterranean Sea caused by climate change, in addition to the introduction of other invasive organisms that managed to make their way through the Suez Canal from the Red Sea. The vanished species include the red-mouthed snail that was used by ancient cultures to produce brilliant purple dyes. Not a single one has been found in the area since 2009. In recent years, there's also been no trace of 38 out of the 59 different types of mollusks that were once considered plentiful. Both the purple and black sea urchins are also feared to have vanished, and only one of each type was located between 2010 and 2015. One study shows that exposure to temperatures over 86.9 degrees Fahrenheit is lethal for urchins. Experts say the rapid and consistent rise in sea temperatures in the Mediterranean over the past 2 decades as part of global climate change tragically caused the waters off Israeli beaches to rise even higher than that each August.
Who is the best soldier in the world? Well, for years, according to Israel, the world's top combat soldier was a man named Emmanuel Moreno. The Israeli lieutenant colonel served in one of the IDF's most elite units, Sayeret Matkal, and the operations he was involved in were so sophisticated and secretive that even today, years after his death, his photo is still not allowed to be released to the public. Today, young Israelis from around the country learn about Moreno by visiting a special memorial in his honor, but the special site is soon set to be demolished. Joining us today with more is professional tour guide and educator Aviad Amitai. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So to begin, tell us more about Moreno, who, the world's best soldier. What does this mean? Tell us all about it.
Well, when you envision the world's best soldier, you probably envision Rambo with a lot of muscles and a big, strong guy. Emmanuel did not look and appear anything like that image that people have of the number one soldier. He was a small guy. You wouldn't even notice him that he is that kind of guy. But his incredible talent was his mouth, his brain, and his sophistication. So this is the kind of person that you don't measure by our standards of a soldier that you envision, the muscular one, but a smart one, the Jewish mind.
The Jewish mind. So, there's so many top fighters in the IDF, obviously. The Israeli military is known for its strength. But why was he specifically viewed as the IDF's number one soldier for so long?
Well, again, I think it has to do with what I mentioned before, that the typical soldier, the Israeli typical soldier, we did a lot of training in the past with Marines, and they always were bigger and stronger than us. But we always used to beat them in the drills that we did together. And they didn't understand how it is. Has to do with the Air Force training and with the infantry. But Emmanuel was something different because he was the guy that used his brain to do all kinds of sophisticated missions. If it was in the training, there's legendary stories about how he did in his training course.
Yeah, tell us one of those stories.
Well, one of the stories that I think that we can say, there was a mission of navigation, that each soldier in the unit had to actually come first, of course, to gather a couple of navigation points. And that's a very, very difficult training. You walk by yourself for about 20 miles a night, and you have to be the first one and also getting all the coordinates right. And they say you can do whatever it is, all means count, just to get the
All
job
means
done.
necessary to get the job done.
Whatever is necessary to get the job done. And he did it. He camouflaged himself in the jeep of his commander. And when the commander was there, the first at his site, he was able to smuggle himself out, get there with all the waypoints. And in the end of the day, when he reported how he did it, he said, listen, he said all measures are legitimate for this mission. And this kind of different kind of thinking was what was unique to Emmanuel. He did things beyond imagination. Obviously, as you mentioned before, most of the things he did are not allowed for the public to know. I don't know much about it. I know a little bit from people that are close to him, and that's also too much. And of course, things that we cannot say about. But he did some incredible things. And the fact you're not allowed to show his picture today is because if people will know who they thought he was, it will be a big problem. So it's really national security.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Now, how did he pass away?
Emmanuel was actually the last victim of the IDF in the Second Lebanon War in 2006. When the war was already declared over, the ceasefire was already in place. They had a special mission in the northern part of Lebanon, in Baalbek. I can't talk about the details and I don't know too much to say, but I can tell you that he was sitting in a certain position in the vehicle and there was an encounter with the army, either the Lebanese army or Hezbollah. And he was shot. He was the only casualty of that operation. They brought him back, and he was pronounced dead at the end of the operation. It was a terrible, terrible loss. And even his superior commanders did not want him to participate because he was such a great asset. But he did not even think twice. He was there. He was the kind of leaders that was not leading from the back, from behind the screens, but he was the first people to follow him. Acharai, follow me.
Now, today there's a memorial in his honor. Who established it? Where is it? And who are the people that are visiting this memorial?
So the memorial we're speaking about is a memorial which was established several years ago by a good friend of Emmanuel and Ezra Asher. His name was Menachem Gertler. He lives in our community in Netiva Avot, Elazar, Gush Etzion. And the three of them were good friends from childhood. Ezra Asher, Emmanuel Moreno, and Menachem Gertler. And Ezra Asher was killed in Lebanon in an ambush in 1993. He was in the paratroopers. In 2006, years later, Emmanuel was killed. And Menachem Gertler, living in that position, in that place in Gush Etzion, decided to commemorate both of these soldiers. He mentioned to me, he's a very good friend of mine, he mentioned that the unique quality of both of them was their humility, their humbleness. And he planted a vineyard in their name. He erected a beautiful balcony to overlook the Patriarch's Path. And he built a beautiful monument which has the picture of Ezra Asher and, of course, a shaded picture of Emmanuel Moreno because no one can actually show his picture.
Wow. Now, this memorial, from what I understand, is under a major threat right now. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the threat is actually quite absurd. This whole story is that there's a Supreme Court lawsuit which was filed by the national left-wing peace movement, Shalom Achshav, which actually... Peace Now. Yeah. They actually found some Arabs that claimed that they own the land. And this has been undergoing in the court for over 8 years now. Unfortunately, about 5 months ago, the Supreme Court decided that the lawsuit would be accepted, and they claimed that these Palestinians, represented by Shalom Achshav, a Peace Now organization, do have claim for the land, even though they were not able to prove any kind of title. The monument sits on one of the spots which they claim that is privately owned land by Arabs. The only claim and the only proof was some kind of aerial footage from the 80s that proved that this land was cultivated. Other than that, there is no title for the land, and there's no one that can actually claim it. It's not that if the monument is going to be destroyed tomorrow morning, some Arab family is going to come and claim the land, cultivate it, or build a house. Therefore, it's a lose-lose situation, and that's why we're fighting so hard in the memory of these two soldiers to respect them.
Well, we can only hope that, this memorial is going to hopefully be recreated somewhere else in the country, if there's some way that you guys protect it from being destroyed. But thank you so much for coming in and telling us about this hero.
Thank you very much. We hope the memorial is going to stay, and we believe so, and we'll do our best to keep it that way. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Most of us have heard the Free Palestine slogan shouted by pro-Palestinian activists, but I bet you never knew that the call to free Zion predates the current rhetoric by just about 2,000 years. The term was so popular back then, the words Freedom of Zion were even inscribed on a coin, minted exactly 1967 years ago. Archaeologists say the coin was just unearthed during excavations of an ancient road discovered in Jerusalem last month. The flip side reads 2 years to the Great Revolt, meaning it dates back to the year 67. That's when the Jewish inhabitants were battling the Romans, who eventually destroyed the Second Temple 3 years later. The coin was just revealed by Israeli Culture Minister Miri Regev. During a briefing she gave the cabinet about preparations for next year's celebration of the 50th anniversary of Jerusalem's reunification. Regev said another known coin issued by the Romans gloating over their conquest of the Jews was tossed into the dustbin of history 1900 years later, when Israeli paratroopers entered Jerusalem's Old City in 1967 and renewed its freedom and our own. The Israeli minister is also calling the recent UNESCO resolutions denying Jewish ties to Jerusalem ridiculous, pointing out these holy places are stamped into our history and identity. If you want to see where the Freedom for Zion coin was discovered for yourselves, the ancient road is going to be open to the public during the Hanukkah holiday, which begins on December 24th. There's been another major Israeli medical breakthrough, this time involving the transplant of lab-developed bones into human patients. Aaron, how is this possible?
It's really cool. It's something straight out of the sci-fi genre. It's basically, I liken it to to Play-Doh and sticking Play-Doh into a mold, but instead of a mold, it's a bone with a cavity or another damaged part inside of it, and the Play-Doh is genetically compatible bone-like gel that they inject directly into the cavity. It's amazing.
So I can't tell if I'm more amazed or shocked. This is obviously another Israeli discovery. What else did you find out about it?
Let's check out my report for the details.
For the first time anywhere in the world, an Israeli biomed company has successfully provided patients suffering from bone loss with artificially grown human bones. The procedure involves the injection of a semi-liquid graft directly into the jawbone of people suffering deterioration there. The material then successfully fuses and fills in gaps in the existing bone, and there's no trouble with the body rejecting the transplants because the graft tissue comes from the patients themselves. Live fat cells are removed from their bodies and re-injected into their decaying bones after having been cultivated in the lab. The regeneration technique, developed by the Israeli Bonus Bio Group, is expected to revolutionize the way doctors treat a variety of orthopedic problems and bone repair. Potential uses include joint replacements, which could help millions of older people regain their lost freedom of movement, and it's all done safely and swiftly without the concerns of tissue rejection or the need for surgery. Masa Israel is home to the widest variety of immersive international experiences for Jewish young adults 18 to 30. Find the right study abroad internship, service learning, or Jewish studies program to help you grow as a person, a professional, and a leader, while also developing a robust global professional network that includes Israelis and Jews from around the world.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Our word today is one that we have trouble translating, not just because it doesn't have a literal translation, but because the word itself encompasses so many mixed emotions and even viewpoints. Today's word is chutzpah, meaning insolence, gal, or audacity, both good or bad. Originally coming from Hebrew, chutzpah came to be known in the West through Yiddish, and yet while it's typically used correctly, it still can't quite be pinned down to a single meaning. So we'll use our favorite. According to Leo Rostin's The Joy of Yiddish, he defines chutzpah as gal, brazen nerve, incredible guts, presumption plus arrogance, such as no other word and no other language can do justice to. That quality enshrined in a man who, having killed his parents, throws himself on the mercy of the court because he's now an orphan. Pretty heavy stuff, so next time someone does something that not only breaks some degree of social code, but leaves you, the observer, in amazement, you can say "Eze chutzpah" and really feel the true meaning that seemingly only Israelis have come to understand. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast.
ILTV's weather forecast is sponsored by Adopt-A-Savta, taking care of Israel's lonely Holocaust survivors.
Tonight, there's a chance for scattered showers along the coast, and the minimum temperature will be about 53 or 12 degrees Celsius. Expect tomorrow to have scattered showers and thunderstorms, with an additional drop in temperatures to a high of 62 or 17 degrees Celsius. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.82 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching, and see you tonight.